Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're just commencing our next session here this afternoon. I'd like to welcome Dr. Hugo Barber and also Catherine Moscarello, who are here to talk about uncompensated surrogacy in Mexico. Thanks very much, Dr. Hugo, if I can welcome you on board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. It's been a very long trip to be here with you. I don't have that much time as I wanted to give you a complete program idea of what we do in Mexico right now. It is a new option, and I'm going to do my best, okay? Okay. Let's begin with the IVF. It is performed like any other country. We culture the embryo. We have egg donors. We have also semen donors if needed, and we always take the embryo between day 3 into day 5, depending on if you need a PGS CGH test. Okay. Okay. Now. My lecture is going to have 4 specific subjects. The first one is the law. The second one is the IVF idea. Thank you. The semen sample, when it's needed, or what do we do when we have male couples, and the frozen embryo. Okay? Thank you. Now, the law issue is always the most important, at least for the new parents. We have now the first contract, which is performed between the agency that does the recruitment of the surrogates, because we have 6 steps I'm going to be explaining a little while. The second is the contract between you, the IPs, and the surrogate mother, which is the one that is going to be lasting until the end. And it is going to be needed and notarized or apostilled depending on the continent that the baby is going to be living. And the last one is the contract that is performed between clinic or agency with the IPs. Okay. Now the IVF treatment. Most of the time we have couples, same-sex couples or heterosexual couples who need an egg donor program. Okay, so we have 2 different ways, which are the local females and the models. We have professional models that help us in this egg donor program, so the IPs can choose which option is the best for them. Now, the semen. Our goal is always to perform fresh cycles. So most of the time we ask the parents to get into the clinic and to give a fresh sample, 3 fresh samples. So we ask them to be there an entire week. That way we can cycle the egg donors or the mothers in the clinic, or working hand in hand with their own gynecologist, so we can begin all the IVF process always in fresh. Okay, so we will have a full generation of embryo which can be used in the future if needed. Now we have the Mexico City clinic, and we also have the Puerto Vallarta clinic, which is in the Nayarita Riviera. It's a beach side. It's very fancy and very relaxing for the couples that need to be tranquil and relaxed. And we also have the chance to ship the embryo from whatever place you live. Okay, federal government always asks us for a specific permit, which is the COFEPRIS permit, and it lasts around 3 weeks. So they have to know how many samples are you sending, if the samples are eggs, semen, or embryo, and what is the purpose of it. Okay, so when we perform that action, we begin to make a statement to the federal government that we are beginning a surrogacy program. Okay. Now, the surrogate mother selection. Please, next. We have different requirements. The age is one of the top. It is between 20 and 37 years old. Of course, all the surrogates have to be Mexican, so the program can be advancing. We only receive Mexican surrogates, okay? That is for a specific law requirement. Single, most of them. There are some countries, specifically in Europe, which needs single surrogate mothers. Okay, and BMI less than 27. That is incorrect. Is height more than 5 feet. The maternity, they have to have at least one baby. So all the surrogate mothers need to be mothers previously. Okay. Okay. No more than 4 pregnancies. The lab test. There's a viral analysis. Of course, the vaginal culture, Papa Nicolau, chlamydia test, ultrasound, the hemogram, and following after that, the physical and the behavioral and the psychological tests. Okay, documents. You're not familiar with all of them, but surrogate mothers must have a birth certificate. Nowadays, in this century, there are some girls that doesn't have a birth certificate because their parents never asked for it. So we need that. The identity number. Every baby that is born in Mexico has a specific identity number. So that is needed for the surrogates also. The identity card, and of course no criminal records. Psychological evaluation. We begin with the initial interview. We run a psychological full evaluation, so that way we will know if emotionally the surrogates are strong to begin the process. Okay, and there's the family member interview just to see the background and if this pregnancy is going to be safe. And the session previews the embryo transfer. We have a kind of relaxing session for the surrogates, an hour previous to the embryo transfer. That has worked a lot for us and to get positive pregnancy tests. Most of the time, if the IPs are in the CT, they have a chat, they talk with the surrogate, and they can even be inside the surgical room to see their embryo get implanted. Okay. Now the psychological follow. We have normally weekly sessions with the surrogates because they go to the medical evaluations each week. So that's how they are always with the guidance of the psychologists, and that way we can see and prevent if it's something not going well in the emotional aspect. Okay. The pregnancy follow. Okay. The first 8 weeks, all the surrogates go to the clinic and we perform an ultrasound and we perform all the medical evaluation and psychological evaluation. And when we have surpassed, it is not 8 weeks, it is 12 weeks, we make the double marker test, and if needed, we make the harmony test. So we always send the medical reports and the images and video to the IPs so they can follow their own pregnancies as if they were close. We also have a Skype video conference to have a live medical evaluation, so you can interact with your surrogate. And we also perform vaginal culture, urine test, and mammogram. After that, the surrogate mothers goes to medical evaluation each 15 days or each month, depending on how are they, or how strong are we seeing all the surrogates in their own background. And the O'Sullivan test for diabetes is on week 24. We will repeat vaginal culture, urine test. Then on week 28, we begin the medical process of lung maturity. And week 32, we perform again the vaginal culture and the pre-surgical lab tests. And between week 37 and 39, the pregnancy ends on natural birth, if it's possible, or a C-surgery. Okay, just to say that we perform a lot of vaginal culture because one of the most frequent cases of premature births are because of that. Okay, infections. Now, the law. The law is actually not so complicated in Mexico. We have a civil code which has been adapted to perform surrogacy. Okay, so on each and every article of this civil code, it has stated each and every aspect that all the IPs will need in the future. Okay. For example, just go back. The Article 2 says that all the residents which stay on the same state, whether are domestic or foreign, the law applies for them. Okay, and one specific aspect is that all the surrogates are from the country, and of course they are from the state of Tabasco, so that way it is easier to get inside the civil code and to be without any I don't know, any trouble, any warning of not getting all the contracts without with. No, let's continue. Article 92. This is one of the most important articles of the Civil Code because it is the recognition of the child. Okay, so it is said, you can read everyone, that a baby which has born with a contract of surrogacy in between has all the right of the recognition of the child, whether it is male couple or an heterosexual couple, and this right of the baby has all the support of this contract. So the IPs has all the right to ask for the birth certificate, and of course to begin the process of asking for a passport, and even if the surrogate mother has second thoughts, we have the chance of performing the DNA test, on which it is going to be established who are the parents, biological parents, and that they have already signed a contract knowing that this surrogacy event was going to be performed from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. Article 347, which is in black, it will be presumed legal mother to the woman who hires, whether or not she provides the egg. This is very important because most of the couples have more than 40 years, so the eggs are not good enough to perform healthy embryo. So most of the time they ask for an egg donor program. Okay, this is the article in the law that give support to the non-biological mothers, but at the final, the wives of the parents of the male. Okay. Our pride, well, just see, there's a lot of babies, different. No, go back. Okay. Well, families. We have different cases, same-sex couples. We have also single male parent. We have a single mother program. Why does a single mother will need an uterus? Well, she has some specific genetic disease which they get born without vagina and uterus, so they need a surrogate, okay, to be a mother. Now, I have these questions because being so small presentation, you will have hundreds of it. So I have these ones. I'm going to be answering all of them, and if you have any further questions, I'll be pleased. Okay? So, what is the law regarding uncompensated and compensated surrogacy? In Mexico, we don't have compensated surrogacy. Okay? Contracts and all the program is uncompensated. It is a free will. Okay? Of course, surrogates has expenses. Some of them stops working to be in the program, and the compensation is in some other ways, but it's not an official payment. Okay? How are the surrogates recruited? We have 6 steps. So it is behavioral, psychological, medical, toxicological, viral, and also psychiatrical testing on the surrogates. When they are surpassing each and every step, we have the chance to be giving them one family to help. Okay? Is it a requirement that they should have completed their own families? Yes. Is there a minimum and maximum age for surrogates? I have already told you, between 20 and 37. In practice, how old are they? They are between 22 and 27 years. Okay? Where do they come from? They are all from Mexico, and they are 95% from the state of Tabasco. If we have one surrogate from some other states, they have to live in the state of Tabasco. How are they screened? As I told you, we perform weekly evaluations and some different medical lab tests. Is there a legal contract? Of course it is. Without any legal contract, surrogacy won't be possible. And the contracts are always signed before the first embryo transfer, okay, when we begin the program. How much are surrogates paid? It is an uncompensated program for them. What counseling and legal advice as to the rights do surrogates receive? There's always all the people thinking that we recruit surrogates that cannot read, that are very poor, and that is false. All the surrogates know what they are doing. They read the contracts. They have the counseling to ask the questions about this specific program. And when they sign the contract, they are completely sure that they are going to begin an end without any second thoughts. Do you use traditional surrogacy as well as gestational carrier pregnancy? We only do the second thing, okay? We don't have traditional surrogacy because that is a mess, and that is not permitted in Mexico City. Okay. What will happen if a surrogate refuses to give up the child? As I told you, There are the articles supporting this program. There's a DNA test on which the biological parents make the state that the baby is not from the surrogates. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten a single case of this. What is there protection for the intending parents? Yes, it is a complete protection, not only from the state of Tabasco, but from their embassies. Okay. What will happen if intended parents refuse to accept a child? Normally, the law firm has, they are informing the embassies about how many clients we have, how are the process changing in order to get the passport specifically and the citizenship, so we always go to the embassy. As I told you, we don't have a single case of that, but we are prepared for any case. Is the child automatically a Mexican citizen? It is. It is a right by Constitution to get the birth certificate and also to get the passport and all the Mexican rights. They are going to be Mexican from the beginning until they die. How do the intending parents get the child out of Mexico and registered as an Australian citizen with an Australian passport? Okay, this is a very tough question. The most common way and easy way is to get the Mexican birth certificate and to make all the citizenship tramits in the Australian embassy. Okay? Because if you get the Mexican passport and you fly with your kids into this country, the process is much longer and difficult, as you have asked in the past lecture. Do you accept, is there the opportunity for the intending parents to have a real relationship with the surrogate during and after the pregnancy? Yes, you have. We have a Skype video conference. You can meet the surrogate previous to begin the program. You can have a contact with them, and of course the most important contact begins when the baby is born, because surrogate mother has to go with you to get the birth certificate, has to go with you to apostage the contract, has to go with you to get the passport, so they are with you until you leave the country. Do you accept embryos sent from another country? Yes, we do. The COFEPRIS permit takes a little longer, maybe 6 weeks, because we have to explain the federal government why are we shipping embryo, and of course they ask us for a lot of reports and testings and whatever, okay? Just because those are embryo. Now, the last question that they send me is, will Mexico become another Thailand? No. It will never happen this way, because we have just a few clinics regulated by the federal government. There are not millions of cases, so we have the chance to follow each and every case, even though we have some IPs, some IPs that try to raise funds and whatever, no? They go to the media, and but they will always get the birth certificate. They will always get out of the country without any trouble. Thank you. You answer the question?
Okay, thanks, Dr. Hugo. Could I invite any sort of questions?
I really apologise if you answered this, but whose names go on the birth certificate if, in the case, for example, of a heterosexual couple and both provided the DNA?
Okay. Normally goes the father's name, and if needed in your country goes the surrogate name on it, and then you make the adoption process for your couple to be also the two parenting.
Actually, when for the legal, if it's a heterosexual couple, both the both the mother and the father go on the birth certificate. If it's a same-sex couple, so if it's a heterosexual couple, the surrogate does not go on the birth certificate at all. And in any event, in Mexico, the surrogate's not listed on the birth certificate. So in a heterosexual couple situation, it's the mother, it's the female, and the male, whether they're genetically connected at all. In a same-sex couple situation, it's the biologically connected father, and the mother's spot is blank.
Okay, let me change my answer. Okay?
Dr. Hugo does the backbone.
It is the father decision who is on the birth certificate. When there's a heterosexual couple, there are both of them on the birth certificate. Of course, can't be two male parents in a birth certificate, but you will choose if the surrogate mother will be on it or not, because there are some countries in Europe that they need to have the surrogate mother in the birth certificate. Okay.
You mentioned about before with the going to getting the citizenship, that the mother has to go with the person to sign a contract as well, or an affidavit to say that that's the case, that we are the intended parents, and she then hands it over to us. Is that correct?
What? You want me to?
It depends on how is the requirements of your embassy. If the embassy needs the surrogate mother to be there and state that she has signed the contract with you and she was full-time in the knowledge of it, and surrogate goes with you. If your embassy does not need you and the surrogate mother to be there, nothing happens.
And typically, in practical application, what happens is you've got a contract, a surrogate contract between the IPs and the surrogate that's done in English and in Spanish.
Yes.
All parties sign it. It's notarized by a Mexican notary, and that's your primary document. Now, if your embassy requires something saying the surrogate gives up her parental rights, then that's something the surrogate is willing to. That's included in the process, and that's something that it's a declaration of surrendering any rights to the child, if you will, and that's something the surrogate can do, and it can be submitted to your embassy depending on the regulations required in your specific area.
Yes.
Do you have any experiences that you brought children from Mexico and what the process of immigration? Because we talk about, it's not just Mexico, any other country, because everybody wanted to have a child, but in the end he has to bring to Australia. And what type of visa you have to have? Is this adoption visa, or you have to have certain legal lawyer who take care specifically of immigration? Or is I know also in New South Wales, it's illegal to have surrogacy or not?
It is legal to have surrogacy. It's uncompensated surrogacy. So the contracts are written so that the surrogacy is altruistic, right? And the citizenship for Australia citizens is citizenship by descent. So it's not an adoption process. It's a biological. It's by biological connection. Anywhere from up to 4 months. I personally, we're working with our first set of intended parents from Australia, but our attorney has certainly brought Australian clients through the process and gotten them from delivery in a surrogate baby in Mexico back home to Australia. Yes.
So it's not specific visa?
No, it's not a specific visa. No, it's citizenship by descent.
Can I just ask whether you can use identity release donors in
Say that.
Mexico? So a donor, if you need an egg or a sperm donor, whether their identifying details can be made available to the intending parents.
So you're asking if donors are anonymous or known?
Well, yes, whether there's a choice.
It's typically in Mexico, donors are anonymous, and surrogates are certainly open to forming relationships with the intended parents, but primarily it would be very rare that you would have a known egg donor in Mexico.
Thank you. Just there are questions about citizenship in visa. This is not my session, and I'll be talking about that tomorrow.
Great.
I'm taking copious notes because I think we are simplifying it. There's a big difference between visa under Migration Act.
Right.
There's a difference with citizenship, which is under Citizenship Act.
Right.
But I do invite you to return tomorrow because I'll be talking about it.
Absolutely. That's excellent. Thank you.
Right, one more question.
Thank you. You answered my question half, but is if you have any specific case that you already have gone through, and you say yes, you have one Australian couple that have actually gone through the process, and in this case, if in the birth certificate or the Australian documentation, what is the name of the parents that appear in that process?
I can tell you on the Mexican birth certificate, if you've got if you've got a heterosexual couple, for instance, I'm an intended parent, and my husband and I are going through creating our family via surrogacy in Mexico. I am not biologically connected to our child, but my name and my husband's name will go on the birth certificate. So it's Catherine and Joe as mother and father. If it's a same-sex couple, it will only be the biological father listed on the birth certificate, and then no mother in the place, unless your embassy requires that there be a mother listed, in which case they will process the birth certificate with the surrogate mother's name on there, but that's not customary, that's not common. Is that,
Okay,
does that help?
It's only in relation, in a special for a same-sex couple. What's the requirement from the embassy in Mexico if they in relation to the names that appear in the Mexican birth certificate?
The Mexican birth certificate is one, same-sex couple is just the biological father.
That would be enough for the.
That would be enough. Oh yeah, you're not going through the Mexican embassy at all. You're just dealing with the civil registry, the Office of Civil Register, in order to get the.
To bring the child over here, you have to go through the.
Through your embassy, the Australian embassy. Yes.
And if there is only one parent in the birth certificate,
Right.
is that acceptable for the Australian embassy or not?
That Danny and
Yes, it is. It is.
Yes, it is.
It is.
So one parent on the birth certificate is okay for the
Yes, it is.
Australian embassy. Yes, sir.
Only one Australian family through.
Right.
It's a 4-month process to take babies home.
Through Mexico. Yes.
That was also because they were not sure. Any birth certificate saw the baby was discharged. So that's what actually extended the stay. But the paperwork could be done in a lot.
Yes. So yes. You're good there.
Can
Thank
we put our
you.
hands together for Dr. Hugo and Catherine?
Thank you.